Right, so Seconds Out, delighted to be joined by cult hero, WBSS head honcho, Sauerland, boss.
That's quite an introduction, Dan. That's quite an introduction.
So many names,
how you mate, right?
So many hats. Kalle Sauerland.
You right, Dan?
Yeah, you good? How are you?
I'm getting close to insanity, but a lot of people will say, "Fuck me, you've hit that a long time ago." No, it's crazy. It's crazy times, and day by day you go a bit madder. You get madder ideas every day as well. I've noticed. I've got to sort of pulled a handbrake on some of the ideas I've got.
What's the craziest idea you've had to say, no, that's just never going to work?
I don't know, everything from doing a World Boxing Super Series in the space of a month to I don't know, bare knuckle fighting. I've visited everything in my head the last month. I've looked at all different things trying to think outside the box. Some of them are good, some of them are horrendous. Some of them, when you go back to the idea, you think, what the hell was I on? And I guess it's such a testing time, but at the end of the day, what keeps me sane is I'm not on the front line at the NHS. I'm not having to go out and graft and sort of worry about getting it. Which at the end of the day, I have this opinion that we're all going to get it at one stage or other. So, but it must be. It's. I mean, I think it's phenomenal what's going on in terms of when we come out of this. Things like luxury goods and all these things, I think the world will look at the world in a very different way. And you're going to see, I hope you're going to see a lot more of social appreciation and I hope that's reflected in not just pay packets, but the way, when nurses are perceived, always people have said, oh, they're underpaid, but what have we ever done for them, really? It's funny, when I grew up, my mum used to rent out a room. She was like a lodger, which would have acted as a babysitter when we were young, and we always had nurses in, right? Yeah. And don't get the wrong idea, Dan. See you smiling already. I can see you smiling. No, I was far too young for that. And they were. I mean, when I saw them, they were normally in nurse training school, and so I grew up around nurses a lot. And phenomenal, the hours they put in. It's just, it's insane. When we say, oh, I've had a slog at work today. Oh, what a nightmare. I've been putting it together, this fight in Vegas. We've been putting on this fight in Tokyo. We're putting this fight on there. What a nightmare. Poor Kalle. Fuck that, man. This is reality. This is frontline shit. This is, and listen, the doctors as well, obviously, absolutely. But let's face it, most doctors, they earn all right and they all go off then and eventually set up nice surgery somewhere and they have a good life for it as well. I mean, I'm not saying that doctors are overpaid, in fact, they're probably underpaid. But the nurses are, for me, the ones, also the ones who drive the ambulances and all the sectors, and there's other ones as well. I mean, it's just the people standing around stocking shelves in Tesco's, it's phenomenal. So, it's a time when we should really, which I think people are doing, but just appreciate really, when we start to get insane and can't deal with this anymore, and think about that, So I think we've got to be patient. It's not a word that I like, but it's a word that we sort of got to just accept and get on. Although it does feel like Groundhog Day.
Apart from coming up with myriad crazy, unworkable ideas, what have you been doing to fill your days?
Oh, solving shit, like obviously we had the big thing with the finals being cancelled in Riga twice. Monitoring that situation, see what we can do there. It's no point in me sitting there and saying, oh, we're going to do this and do that. I'm talking rubbish. Still, at this take, I remember doing an interview I think it was 4 weeks ago now. It was around my birthday. It was about a month ago. And with Coogan, actually. And I said, oh, you can't make plans. But here it is a month later, and we still can't make plans, right? I saw the best one actually, I don't know, I think I got a screenshot of it. The one, I mean, that Boris Johnson speech on Sunday. And I've got to say, I've never been a Johnson fan because I wasn't into the whole Brexit thing. But I've got to say something. I'm not a fan of that sort of Cambridge hierarchy stuff either. But there was one thing that was put out the other day after the whole speech. Let's call it a speech on Sunday night, which I mean was bizarre. It was like, whenever people say to promoters, "Oh, he's promoting the announcement of the announcement of the announcement." Well, what the F was that, man? I mean, we're going, the big lockdown, unreleased the plan, release of lockdown plan, and ultimately, I can't find it out, but ultimately there was absolutely nothing that came out of it. But furthermore, they didn't address, things like hairdressers. I was just saying to you before we got on, I said, you look like you've trimmed your hair. I mean, I know that I'm in Germany at the moment. I spent the first half of lockdown in the UK. And it just baffles me how there's some decisions are made. And one when we talk about fight sports, I've seen this BBC document go out, which is 20 odd pages long. And then we get this here. Hold on, I'm going to read this to you. From next month, i.e. June, in 2 weeks. Yeah, me and you would agree. Next month means in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I do agree that,
I love these words. Is looking at permitting cultural and sporting events to take place behind closed doors for broadcast, while avoiding the risk of large-scale social contact. What the F does that mean? So they're looking at, right? Why they're not looking at that now, or why they're not? What they're looking at it? So are they looking at it in 2 weeks for?
Or have they started looking at it for 2 weeks? Yeah.
And then on top of that, it's while avoiding the risk of large-scale social contact. So the whole message that's coming out now to the governing bodies, the promoters, the fighters, the trainers, the managers, the agents, it's such a mixed message. So when let's focus selfishly now on the boxing world, and there's shows that are popping up now. There's going to be a show in Berlin, in Germany, I saw. There's a show on the 12th of June. There's a show in Poland, Marius Vac Johnson, I saw, beginning of June.
A few in Mexico as well, aren't they, in June?
Mexico as well, yeah. So you see that these are starting up. Would I put my nuts on the line now and do a big show? Forget it, right? Forget it. Because the first thing is always the safety of the fighters and everyone at the event. Now it's not just the fighters, it's also everyone who's working the event, producing the event. We're not even talking fans, because there are no fans. Let's be realistic. There are no fans. So we're talking about, but there is still a production, so you're still always going to be at around 100, 150 people, depending what sort of thing. And there's a lot of people, and that one person there, be it what is it? Not passenger zero, the not informant, what is the person who carries the illness zero, something zero,
COVID
patient zero, something, yeah, whatever. And if you've got one of them in there, you could end up having 20 infections coming out of it, Yeah. So unfortunately, those 20 infections, if the R rate is even at 1, means that it needs another 20 people. You could have you could infect thousands of people from your boxing event. So I think there is certainly ways of doing it, but we still have to work out and have the proper guidance on testing. So the people in the UK are talking about doing boxing events looking at boxing events in June, right? How ridiculous is this? We're talking about UK, where they can't muster up the government targets on testing right now for people who actually need to be tested because they're sick. So we're going to come along, waltz along, here we are, the boxing industry. Yeah, we fancy doing a bit of fighting tonight. And guess what? We need a couple of ambulances, we need a couple of ICU beds, we need a couple of neurosurgeons all on standby. We might not need them, but we need them there. We need paramedics, and we need a load of testing kits to test them throughout the week. So you're talking probably 500 testing kits. Yeah? Forget about the cost, which small hall promoters, it is more than their whole card. Yeah. So let's not talk shit, right? We are far away from that. I'm not painting the glass half empty. I do believe that in July things will be possible. I think it's going to, the curve hopefully will come further down and down and down, and then things will be possible. But let's not talk when the government puts out it in June and get everyone's hopes up. You know, boxers call me, managers call me, agents call me. Oh, what's happening? Is there a move? You know, and it's just rubbish. You know, and it's the government again who put out this message where, oh, I can do that. Oh, well, read the small print, right? Yeah. In this case, not in the small print, it's the bloody big print because it's written in such a vague way. You know, yes, you can travel, but only on essential reasons. What the fuck does essential mean? Essential to me? Essential to you? Essential to who? Try and find out. I was trying to see if I can fly to a meeting somewhere in a country in Europe, and travel's possible. Essential travel. Do you know I've been working on a week to find out what is essential, right? No one can give me an answer because everyone shifts the buck, you know. So it's really. You know, we always fucking say that's a politician's answer. But I'll tell you something, now we're really finding out what a politician is all about, you know? And it's this unclear message. And to be fair to the Germans, ruthlessly efficient as always, they came out, you got to see it, it's like a catalogue, right? There's no ifs, buts, it's black and white, you know? It's on this day, we will lift this. And I'm like, okay, I understand, right? We know it. Not, we recommend masks in shops. Fuck that. What do we recommend? If you bloody do the mask, or you don't do the mask, but don't recommend, right? It's not the time to recommend. And people, just so you understand, it's not about having masks that are supersonic, right? I went shopping earlier. I forgot my mask. You're not allowed to go in the shop. They have masks there. They hand them out, right? Some of them are homemade. You know, the only thing you need on a mask is I think 2 pieces of cloth together, tied up. You can put a finger at it. It's not about buying an FFP2 supersonic.
On Twitter yesterday, you can make one out of a sock. Apparently,
they sell them in the pharmacy, homemade ones. They make them in the back of the farm in my local pharmacy here for 30p, right? So everyone can have a mask. So it's not about that. So why are you not saying do this and do that? There's no clear line. It's like everything has to be, there's always a tilt on it. And for me, it's all bollocks, you know. Either if you say to a man, you can go in the pub or you can't go in the pub. But not, well, you can go in, you can buy the beer, but you've got to drink it like, well, not inside and not outside, somewhere in between. You know, they're not sitting on the fence. They're inventing the fence that we don't see. You know, that's the thing.
Is the situation in Latvia any different from how it is in the UK? Is it a bit more clear cut? Are the restrictions easier? What's the situation over there?
But Latvia's buzzing, man. I mean, I've seen my mates in Latvia. They're running around, restaurants open. You know, everyone's outside enjoying the sun because you can't get into Latvia. I think they've had 50 cases or something. You know, it's ridiculous. They are almost corona exempt. They had some cases that flew in from skiing in February. They were, I don't know, tied up, locked up, whatever, and no one ever saw them since. And apart from that, there's not been any corona there. So it's they've just and actually there's some mate of mine who's Latvian can't get back into Latvia right now because they've said no. so it's a very different situation. They went very aggressive on it, getting in, but in the country, there's no lockdown or anything. The restaurants are open, very chilled. You know, it's so every country's had their own way of doing it, and we'll see which ones have absolutely made a pig's ear of it and which ones haven't afterwards. And I know which one's leading in the pig's ear race right now.
Are WBSS shows viable without a live gate? I mean, you've got obviously all the TV networks around the world that have committed to showing it.
I think any big shows are not viable without a live gate. You know, just by the pure nature of what you pay the athletes. And I've spoken to a couple of the other big boys this week, and everyone's the same. We're going to have to sit down and talk to fighters at the end of the day, not the fighters, on the undercard, the bottom of the bill or whatever. Well, clearly not. But at the top end, everyone's going to have to front it. There's going to be less money for obviously for the main event fighters. There's a guy who attracts a gate of $3-4 million, which is a big gate, but it's not the biggest gate for some of the superstars. But if that's missing on a show, yeah, of course the promoter should take a bundle of that, but it can't just be the promoter. It has to be, I don't see the networks stumping up more money. The networks are coming out of a bad place right now, especially the pay channels, whether it's Sky or in the UK or BT, they're all struggling right now. They're all having a terrible year. And the OTT platforms as well, whether it's ESPN Plus, The Zone, they're all, it's a tough time for everyone. So they're not going to turn around and say, oh, you're not getting the gate, so we're going to give you more money. They're going to expect better content for the same money without, they don't care about the bloody gate. In fact, they'll say, well, actually your product's not as good because we ain't got a live crowd. Rightfully so. It's not their business, it's our business. So it will be down to the fighter and the promoter, the main event fighters and the promoters, I think, in most cases, and there will be pay cuts for everyone, but there is in every industry,
Breeders' Doors cost, as you said, has been postponed a couple of times. It was going to round off season 2 because you've had the other 2 finals already. When was season 3 due to begin in your mind before all this happened?
Well, Breeders' Doors cost, just to clarify that. So the first time we postponed it, the second time we just cancelled it because we said we don't know where it's going to happen. We don't know if it's going to happen. We don't know anything right now. We expect it will happen. We're monitoring the situation the whole time. But how can we rightfully say right now that we can put that final on this year? Imagine we plan it now for October. There's a second spike, and then we got to knock that one as well. So I'm not going to sit and lie and say, oh, I can't wait to do the final then and then. But I hope we can do the final, and that's what we fully intend to do. We are monitoring the situation. That's why we had to cancel it, and we'll see where that's going to be. Will it be still in Riga? Will it be behind closed doors? If I was a betting man, I just don't see boxing taking place in front of an audience, a meaningful audience. I think you might get dribs and drabs maybe, but a meaningful audience this year. I mean, we turn it around, Dan. Would you feel comfortable right now going taking people you love to a boxing show, closed doors, nice, sweaty, hot atmosphere, people spitting beer all over you, and
you certainly making it sound attractive.
It normally it sounds like a great Friday night out, but it is different times at the moment. And standing next to someone right now, when you walk down the road, people are swerving you like they've got a bad case of body odor, and now, oh yeah, no, but don't worry, because at a boxing fight we'll all stand shoulder to shoulder in a hot atmosphere. Of course, yeah, I'm sure everyone's going to be well interested in doing that right now. Yeah, it's going to take us time to get that back, that feeling, and it's not just about boxing. Imagine going to a club right now. You'd be like, whoa! Imagine like being out on the pool. It would be like, well, would you do a corona check first? I mean, with AIDS, at least you had condoms, but it's, it's not, seriously, now, how is it going to change the social behavior of people? Right? It's madness, and it will come back. I think everyone who says, oh, the world will never be the same place, bollocks, absolute crap. You don't ask people for you shake their heads if you've got the flu. Yeah, when you see they've got they've had a cough and a sneeze, you think, right, mate, I'll lean this way now, and that will be the same later on as well. With that, I think you'll get that coming back in. I think you'll have the whole, be step for step though. You won't go straight back into the mosh pit, so to speak. You want to go, onto a nice seat in an arena where maybe there's a seat free next to you to start with. I don't know, but it's going to be bit by bit and get people's confidence back. The same way as we've had it now to get used to wearing masks, walking 2 meters apart from people. We've had to bounce this way, and now we're going to have to bounce back. But it's not going to. From a feeling, there's very few people I think is just going to say, right, let's go and let's go and rub shoulders and spit beer at each other tomorrow. You know, yeah, not happen, is it? You know, bit by bit.
So before our world did get turned upside down, was season 3 due to start this year?
Yeah, I mean, so the plan was, and we were very far down the line on that, was straight after the final to announce that season 3, well, not straight, but let's say 3-4 weeks after the final, we pretty much locked up the 5 weights. I forget, there's always that process. I pick 5 weights. We present them then to the board at the WBSS, and then from that point on, we take the recommendation of the board, and those are the weights we go and do. So we weren't at that stage yet, but we were at the stage of having the 5 weights. And you know, it's the unfortunate thing is all that work, right, it's not completely down the pan, but it will have to be redone, because when we come back, and when that is, well, let's take the timeline that we're all sort of looking at: July, August, the big events starting sort of late August, September, I would imagine, with some shows before. I'm being optimistic now a little bit, but I do think we'll see some big boxing in September. This is all based on what's happening at the moment. I'm not talking if there's a second wave aside, but then we'll have big time boxing back in September. So hopefully we can try and get a final done then. And you know, I see season 3 realistically, and once again, it's not my decision. It will be down to the board to decide that. Its budgets need to be signed off and things like that. But I would guess in the first quarter of 2021. You know, it's not realistic to do it before. Those guys off now, they're not going to wait for us to bring the talks. They're going to want to fight when they get back. So let them fight in September, October. The earliest they can really fight is January, February, March. You know. So around that time, it's not the end of the world. It's not the end of the world. We were looking at changing the calendar anyway, so we wouldn't have pushed back that far. But, you know, I think the good thing about the boxing industry, Dan, is that there's nothing been erased. It's been put on pause. Yeah? And when it comes back, I think it's not just an expression, will come back bigger and badder than ever. But I think you're going to see some great fights in a very short space of time, because, you know, normally when you run a stable, and forget the whole industry, which it is now, so it's not just one stable, but if you run a stable, you have your cycles on the fighters, and you make sure that your stars are on. Let's say you're a big stable, and you have 3 main stars, right? And those 3 main stars, you'll always try and keep them a month apart at least, yeah? But they'll have their cycle. Okay, heavyweights normally twice a year, the other one maybe 3 times a year, but give or take, depends on the person. Sven Oki used to do it 5 times a year, but you can plan. The issue now is they're all together, right? So you know, so we come out the starting blocks. It's not going to be, oh, I'll get back into the cycle, and okay, we can box from September. I'm more than happy to wait till December.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'd like to meet that fighter. That's not the fighter's mentality. Whether they're nice or not nice fighters, they've all got fighters' mentality. The first thing they want to do is they want to be fighting. You know, right now, everyone will say, we understand, we accept. The second it comes back, though, we understand, we accept, we want to get out. So there's going to be a huge amount of pressure on the promoters. Huge. And then there's going to be a huge amount of pressure on the broadcasters to deliver the dates. Right now, the broadcasters would love us to come up with every week boxing, because there's no other sport. But at that time, sport will be back, you know. So it's we're not going to be able to get hundreds of new dates all packed into 1 month. It doesn't work that way, especially not for OTT platforms. Yeah? They need to space it out between months, and it is going to be for the fan, yeah, and for the media following it. It's going to be a great time, because you're going to see so many back-to-back weekends of amazing fights. You know, I think we're even going to see, for the first time, I think we might see packed weekends. So we might see a Friday and a Saturday night. So when you've got, I mean, I'm just thinking, look, just take the heavyweights in the UK, just alone the UK fights and heavyweight. You've got Usyk Chisora, you've got White Povetkin, Joshua Pulev, you've got Dubois Joyce, and those fights, they really all need to happen in September. Yeah, September, October. I mean, the Pulev camp, I've heard of making crazy. I mean, you read every day a new suggestion on a venue by them. So they're making full pressure. Right? I'm sure AJ wants to get out, yeah, and get the Pulev thing out of the way to move on. I think, Dillian, he seems to be very itchy, and you can see him on his social media. He's dying to get back in the ring. I know Povetkin, the first fighter I ever signed, I know him in and out. He'll be full on in training somewhere in outside of Moscow in his camp, and the same with Usyk. I mean, Usyk, when I promoted him in the WBSS, he's one dedicated athlete. He's not going to be. He definitely won't be drinking Coronas and at the barbecue at the moment.
Had to be Coronas, didn't there?
So all these fighters are going to be at the blocks. So it's going to be some interesting some interesting discussion between fighters and promoters. So yeah.
When you said 5 weights presented to the board for season 3, do you mean you present 5 and then they come back with 3 chosen ones?
Yeah, it's pretty much. I mean, it's not a set number. Yeah, it's like that. I mean, 3 of them I've said: flies, super flies, the female, and it's a catch weight with the lights. I think the middleweights are great at the moment. I think the light heavyweights are super. I think that's a few more than 5, but those
I think there was 5. I think you've just named
those are the ones I was looking at. Those ones that we were looking at, they're the ones that I still think are very, and featherweight as well. So you've got quite a few weights there where it could be done. Like I said, that won't have changed that much in essence, but you'll have to see what fights get made. I don't expect any fighter not to have fought now and then go into a tournament only, which starts in the beginning of next year. So they're going to have a fight in between. Will people lose? I think the matchups that are going to be made now are going to be very strong because, like I said before, there's really a place for tune-ups. If you've got all these names out there, they can't. They need to all go out. So you're going to have some strong pairings. There's not going to be fighters are not going to be able to say, "Oh well, I don't fancy that now." No. I'd rather have a tune-up. Not going to happen. Not going to happen because there's too many good fighters who've been out who all need to get in, and there's only so many dates. So what's going to happen? They're going to be paired. So it'll be silly if I think that it'll be the same list of fighters and weights than it was in January, February. It will be in September, October. September will probably be the time when we finalise those weights.
There's been a lot of speculation recently, probably because people haven't got a lot else to do at the moment, on Joshua and Fury ultimately fighting perhaps in Saudi Arabia or somewhere else in the Middle East. You were one of the first promoters to take a big event to that region. What do you make of it as a kind of growing power source for boxing?
I think we were the first ones there with a big event. We took all the rap for it, and then everyone else went and did it. No, but listen, it was a great event down there. It was super well organised. I think I think any region of the world that wants to grow boxing and put money into it is great for boxing. That's fact. And they took a very professional approach to it, and it's good that they're putting on more events. The sport needs to grow. We can, politically, I've always said, I keep separate to sport. When people came out and say, "Kalle, why are you taking a final between 2 Brits to Saudi?" I said, "Well, it's a global tournament. It's not a normal fight night, so it's just what we're doing." And then obviously, you've followed on with the Khan event, and which I think had a few hiccups, but but then they brought back they brought it back obviously with the massive Joshua fight, which went very well. And I expect them to keep on at it. But like every country in the world, I think Saudi will also have other issues rather than putting on boxing events right now. When I look at the oil prices and things like that, so it will also a bit up in the air. I mean, I followed that story, what I've heard is it's for me. It sounds like everyone wants that fight to happen, and I think both fighters want that fight to happen, and it will happen. That's my opinion. I don't think it will happen now. I mean, first of all, Pulev's under a contract. I think Wilder is a much easier one to solve. It's a step-aside agreement. You can do that. I think with Fury, with Pulev, it's a much more complicated situation. They've got a deal. It's a mandatory. You would either lose the belt or you would, which a lot of people will say, who gives a shit? That we just want to see that fight. Fair enough, but I don't think AJ wants to lose the first belt he won. I know for a fact when we negotiated the first Pulev fight, there was never a question. AJ was wanted to take that fight, and there was other fights also that probably maybe more interesting for him at the time. But he seems to be, which is great for the sport. He seems to be very proud of that belt, and rightly so. And rightly so. So he's not going to go out of the way of Pulev. I can't see that. And with the IBF, you can't do step asides unless there's some very new method that I haven't seen, a Corona method maybe. but I don't know. I can't see that one happening. Not now. I just think. But at the end of the day, would love to be proved wrong because I'd love to see that fight.
Well, I think it will happen eventually, just not next.
Yeah, it will. It will happen. I mean, there are fights which we think will happen. It should happen. We all want them to happen, and then they don't happen. So unfortunately, that is the dark side of our sport somewhere. That's why we one of the reasons why I'm so driven by the World Boxing Super Series. No way out. But I do think that when you look at it, both guys want it. The danger, of course, is when you talk about a fight after a fight, and let's be serious. I know Tyson manhandled and made him look like a novice in February, but Deontay Wilder's still Deontay Wilder. He hasn't gone away overnight. He's still got one of the most brutal punches in boxing. People were before saying it was the biggest puncher ever in heavyweight, and I did smirk a bit at that one. I mean, that was a little bit maybe fight talk before. Great puncher, though. Let's be serious about it. Great puncher. So, I mean, Tyson, I think, is such a professional in terms of analysing, and he just knows the game in and out. So I'd be surprised if he did take the eyes of the prize, and he has his number. If Tyson wants to, he'll do the same job with him again. And there's nothing, absolutely nothing, that Deontay Wilder can do. There's nothing. There's no, with his physical attributes, there is nothing that he can do. There's nothing that he cannot fight off the back foot. He can't learn that between fights. We saw that. He's terrible off the back foot. So if Tyson presses, again, but of course he can walk into one. That's just boxing. He could underestimate him. I don't know, but there's lots of crazy things happening. He gets cut in the first round, loses, and then they glosses off that match suddenly. Then we go, okay, well, he's going to have another Wilder fight, and then we're talking 2022, and then I don't know, Joshua retires. You don't know, so it's not for sure. So I guess if there is a chance to make it now, make it. But I just can't see that happening. And I do think a lot of it is talk within, within a time when people are talking a lot. Not too much doing possible at the moment. And I think it's interesting, and it's also interesting to see the way that the whole the negotiations are taking place and not taking place, and I think it will happen, but it will take time.
outside of the heavyweight division, if you could make any fight in world boxing when boxing comes back, which fight would you make? And is it a fight you could see the WBSS enabling?
I would love to see it. I'd love to see it middleweight. I mean, I've got to say, one fight. I'm a fan of some of the rematches. I'd love to see. I'm going to throw you a weird one now. I'd love to see Billy Joe Eubank too. That'd be a great one. That's why middleweight's one that I love. I just think that Billy Joe also is very easily can make middleweight. And I personally think it's a better weight for him, and I think it's a better weight for Eubank. And I think it'd be a great fight at middleweight. So that's a little bit of a curveball. But I'm going to say Billy Joe again. I'm really looking forward to Billy Joe Canelo. I really am, because I think that Billy Joe is one of those characters who does just enough to get past, and he can look really shitty against some lesser opposition because he just does enough. He knows his talent. And the question is now, when the bar's raised, can he do it? And I think he can. I really think he can. It'll be interesting. I mean, it'll be great. You know, I know he does some crazy shit on social media sometimes, but I do love him.
We'll take some of the attention away from you, I suppose.
Exactly. You know, I will always be runner-up to Billy Joe. So from that point of view, Billy, love you, my man. Thank you so much.
You owe him a debt of gratitude.
I do indeed.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Can't wait
to
catch up with you in person.
In all freshness.
Say again.
In all freshness, you are definitely the most coiffured man in the UK at the moment. You know, I'm going to use that word coiffured because, as you can see, I have been able to have a haircut from a professional. Yours does actually look quite professional, not like my brother who's shaved the whole bloody lot off.
Yeah, I thought he looked quite interesting. He said
there's a few characters. There's a few characters. I've seen some funny ones in the UK. And I saw Eddie the other day. I saw Eddie's hair's growing out quite a lot. There's some that can hide it, but yeah, no, they all look a bit younger with the longer hair. But Eddie looks a lot younger with his own longer hair. I'm trying to think of another couple of funny ones I saw the other day. The mad ones that don't spring to mind now. But there's some people who definitely are looking forward to that July date of opening the hairdressers if circumstances don't change.
Well, yeah.
Absolutely.
Don't get people's hopes up.
Yeah. Incredible.
Brilliant. Well,
right.
Stay safe.
Danny, stay safe. Stay sane. Be
stay
well.
Sane, yeah.
Keep out of trouble.
Go out, but don't go out. Essential, but only if it is essential.
Go out. No. Go out, but don't go out.
Yeah. No, out.
All right, mate.
I'll speak to you soon, mate. Take care.
Take care. Over and out.